Guys, today's schedule is we're going to be doing a big meta discussion all about what happened during Players Cup 3, what Pokemon did well, what Pokemon did not do well, and I'm going to kind of explain why we're seeing these trends that we're seeing, and I'm also going to make a few bold predictions going into the Global Finals Top 16, since all the players have to use the team that they used in the top 256 or 128 bracket. They have to use that next week. So there's not going to be any team changes, but then for the global finals, everyone is allowed to change their team. So I'm going to make some predictions as to what we're going to see in the global finals. It's going to be a very edutaining stream today, my friends. So let's go. Guys, we are lucky enough to have the full usage statistics of Players Cup 3. So big pog for that. I kind of want to talk about the biggest shockers, if you will, that came from all of the Players Cup 3 results. And let's start with a pretty obvious one, but it is still quite shocking in general, guys. We can just round this up to 30%. 30% of teams had Zacian as their restricted. Let that sink in, homies. Like, there was a 1 in 3rd chance that when you play against your opponent, their restricted Pokemon is a specific restricted Pokemon. Practically 33% of the teams had the exact same restricted Pokemon. That is absurd and insane when you think about that you can only have one restricted Pokemon. So I think this just shows how insanely good Zacian is. I don't think Zacian is overrated in any way. It is absolutely insane. It's way too fast. It's way too strong. It is effectively like, it feels like it's like Dynamaxed at all times, if that makes sense. That's kind of something that I feel because of how much damage it does to opposing Dynamaxes. Like, when you hit an opposing Dynamax Pokemon with Behemoth Blade, it's as if you're like maxed. It's even stronger than as if you're maxed, actually, because it does double damage instead of like Ironhead going from 80 to 130 max. It's absolutely insane. So that's the first big thing, is that 64 people had Zacian on their team, which is just absolutely insane, man. This is just the US of A. Thank you, Luke, for bringing that up. I should have said that, but this is only the North American Players Cup data, and that is the only data that I'm personally going to be talking about in this video. I would assume that all the regions have somewhat similar usage statistics, but of course things can totally change from region to region. We're just gonna be talking about NA in this video. I think another big one that we need to talk about, homies, is that Kyogre is at 12% usage. Look how much I had to scroll down for that just to find Kyogre. Is at 1152. It's at 12% usage. Groudon was used more than Kyogre. And I think we've all just seen Kyogre, like, you know, washing us away. We've all got our, like, Torn Ogre Timmy jokes that we love to throw out. But it looks like the Timmys didn't make it into Players Cup. Sad. And we're going to get a little bit more into that. But pretty much what I was just talking about in one of my latest videos on YouTube was that, like, Groudon, it was my tier list video. Groudon enables Venusaur and Charizard, some of the most broken Pokemon like in the game. And Kyogre doesn't enable any of some like super broken like Pokemon on its team. What, Kingdra, Ludicolo? Sheesh, they are not as good as Venusaur and Charizard. Not even close. So I think that that is the big kind of seller. I think it's kind of funny, guys. Little fun fact here. Kyogre and Umbreon were almost used the exact same amount. Think about that, man. There were almost as many Umbreon in the NA Players Cup top 256 as there were Kyogre. I think that's pretty darn wild, honestly. And then another big one, right there under Kyogre, Calyrex Ice Rider. There was, once again, almost equally as many Calyrex Ice Riders as Kyogre. Is this like starting to sink in? I think that that is absolutely insane. Like, we knew Calyrex Ice was starting to move up the corporate ladder. You know, I kind of talked about the really popular Mimikyu Calyrex teams and stuff like that. And I mean, we all know Calyrex has insane base stats. It's extremely bulky. Its abilities are crazy. It is a great Pokemon, but seeing Kyogre fall down that much and seeing some of these other Pokemon rise up is honestly just super, super surprising. Calyrex Shadow. We saw Calyrex Shadow starting to like come up and like dominate the meta for like what seemed to be like 3 or 4 weeks. I talked about this on stream like a few days ago, but remember like Calyrex Shadow won, I think, 2 big, huge grassroots best of 3 open team sheet tournaments back to back. It was like 2 of the Victory Road tournaments, I believe. Calyrex Shadow won both of them. It was like a Jet Button, Whimsicott, Hyper Offense, that kind of stuff. But those were open team sheet best of 3 tournaments. So nobody could use the John that like Calyrex Shadow is only this like hyper offense kind of thing that really thrives in best of 1. We saw it successfully do well in many best of 3 tournaments, but it took a huge nosedive coming into Players Cup 3. I guess a lot of players didn't want to use something as risky, if you want to say, as Calyrex. You know, it's high risk, high reward. It could end games in 3 turns. It could get destroyed in 3 turns, right? That's kind of how the Pokemon goes. And I think players do try to tend to shy away from these hyper offense kind of teams in big best of 3 tournaments. But as you guys will see, there were a lot of very successful hyper offense teams in this tournament anyway. So still just kind of weird to see Calyrex Shadow that low after how well it was doing in the, you know, weeks prior. Mod check, Kartana, question mark. Kartana is absolutely nowhere. Remember how like annoying Kartana was at the beginning on what team was Kartana used the most on and was successful on? Huh. Was it on the Tornogre Timmy teams? Bars? Triple T's? I'm scrolling down. Let's find the Kartanas. Go, go, go. Go Kartana. It's your birthday. Look at this. 4% of teams had a Kartana on it. Okay. I don't even know if this is going to reflect properly, but let's just look at like the Pikalytics. Let's look at how high Kartana is on this. 10. So like, obviously that's not very much, but that's like more than double. If you want to put it into that perspective, Kartana is used more than twice as much on Showdown as it was in the Players Cup bracket. So, I mean, that's honestly pretty crazy. I think this is once again just showing that Kyogre took a hard fall in this tournament. The basic newbie Tord Ogre Timmy team took a fall in this tournament. That is Kyogre, Tornadus, Amoonguss, Incineroar, Kartana, and Regieleki. It was Regieleki. Okay. But yeah, Kartana, absolutely nowhere to be found, but I think that that is pretty much because of the reasons I'm about to talk about. But obviously, guys, Incineroar, the #1 used Pokemon in the format. None of us should be surprised at that. This Pokemon is insanely, insanely good. It fits onto every single team comp ever imagined. Kyogre, oh, but it's a fire type in the rain? Nope, still amazing. Groudon in the sun? Ooh, I don't want like 2 things weak to water. Nope, still amazing. Oh, my Zacian team, my colossal Zacian, amazing. Wheezing Regigigas Zacian, it's amazing. It's Incineroar, baby. And then Thundurus. Thundurus works by countering a lot of the popular Pokemon, such as Venusaur, such as Landorus, such as Incineroar. It's all gonna come together, guys. It's all gonna come together. Regieleki's really high. Keep that in mind. Regieleki usage is massive. And then Venusaur usage, Grim. Lando usage, very big. Almost 19% of teams had Landorus. That's a lot. That's a lot. But guys, let's move it on into the top 16 teams from North America. So obviously I'd like to point out that it's very cool that some of my colleagues, my VGC streamer content creators are doing very well. Audie does a lot of really cool guides. We've got Joe, UX9, the god himself, making it in on winners. Wolf Glick, of course, with Stone Journer, the epic meme. And our boy Master Mark made it in too. So super cool. And this is winner's side. But now let's take a look at the losers side teams, which these guys are not losers. These guys are better than every single one of you in chat. Yep. Okay, just accept it. These guys maybe have the tag loser on their name, but they're better than all of us. Let's go. But so, yeah, once again, Paul Chua, homie of the stream, fellow content creator as well. Colin, Rogov, my man. Let's go NorCal. And then Jones, our very own Jones. I don't know if he's here right now, but big shout outs to him. Homie of the stream making it too. So obviously, super, super cool. But the big thing that we need to talk about, guys, is I'm going to go back to this page. I got a little notepad right here that you guys can see. Zacian and Groudon are the ones leading the charge. There were 5 Zacians and 5 Groudons. As you saw, there was what, 30% usage of Zacian and then something like 12% usage of Groudon. Well, you can see that those stats have just kind of evened out, that the Groudons, you could effectively say that the Groudons overperformed, and I would say Zacian kind of performed as to what you would expect. On 5 teams out of 16, it's about a third of the teams, like its usage statistic, right? But then Groudon overperformed. I think that that insinuates that Groudon was a great call for this tournament. But another surprising thing is only 3 Kyogre made it in. If someone was like, how many Kyogre teams do you think are going to make it through into the top 16 of the NA Players Cup? I wouldn't have said an amazingly high number, but I definitely would have said higher than 3. I would have been safe saying like 6, 7 Kyogres, a bunch of Zacians, some Groudons, and then a few little tricklers. I'd almost say that Groudon and Kyogre kind of switched places. I guess from what we might expect to see do successfully. But I think we've all seen that Groudon is destroying the meta right now because Venusaur, Charizard are absolutely broken. But yeah, speaking of Groudon, there was a ton of Venusaur in this tournament. Top 16, there were 9 G-Max Venusaurs in the top 16, whether they were paired with Groudon or Torkoal. Look, you can even see that the math exactly adds up. There were 5 Groudons, there were 4 Torkoals, and there were 9 Venusaurs. X flippin' D. So you could say that over half of the teams that made it into NA Players Cup were like Sun Venusaur. They had a Sun Venusaur mode, if you will. And I think that that literally just explains that Venusaur and Charizard are extremely good, which I'm also going to get into in just a second. Right there with lots of Venusaur were 5 Charizards. Charizard is kind of one of those mons that's like only good when it Dynamaxes. It's kind of hit or miss in the way that like a big rock move from your opponent can absolutely decimate him. Incineroar is really annoying for it to deal with because it doesn't take Wildfire, gets faked out, gets snarled, gets parting shotted, etc. Charizard usage at 5, almost on a third of the teams. That's a lot. What are you guys starting to see? What you should be saying to that hypothetical question is that Sun, having a Sun mode, these aren't Sun teams, okay? I don't like using that term. Maybe some of them look more like Sun teams, but obviously ones with like Kyogre and stuff here, calling that a Sun team is kind of cringe. Like Audie's team, you know, I could argue that's a Sun team, right? But yeah, having a Sun mode, it was definitely the call for this tournament. I think we all knew that. We all saw that coming. One other little piece of talking that I want to talk about for the teams that made it through, the top 16 teams, is there was not very much Thundurus. Well, 5 is a good number. A third of the teams, a little under a third of the teams having Thundurus, seems like a kind of normal amount, but like Thundurus was kind of the mon to beat, if that makes sense. Like nobody could really come up with like amazing answers to Thundurus this format because, you know, the flying just gets rid of, you know, Venusaur and stuff like that. It's super effective against Kyogre. It's got Airstreams. Defiant is keeping things like Landorus and Incineroar away from him. And stuff like that. So Thundurus was this really scary Pokemon that was just a great glue holder on things like Zacian, keeping Intimidates away from Zacian. And I guess 5 seemed a little bit lower to me, but I think Thundurus is one of those Pokemon that is very inflexible. It's a bad Pokemon when it's not Dynamaxed. I think that that is inarguable. It is only very good, effective, and scary when it is Dynamaxed. And I think Pokemon that 100% require to be Dynamaxed are a little bit harder to commit to in your team building, if that makes sense. Like, look at 5 Charizards and 5 Thundurus. I think that's just about right. They are amazing Pokemon, but they are trash when they're not Dynamax. Even Venusaur is like a good mon when it's not Dynamax because of the super fast sleep powders. Its typing just like resists a lot of stuff, resists Kyogre, totally ignores things like a Moongus, stuff like that. So I guess I was a little bit surprised at the Thundurus usage in top 16, but it's not too crazy. Regieleki, one of the most annoying, extremely powerful, polarizing Pokemon ever. Only 2 made it into the top 16 on the North American side. Look, there are none in winner's bracket. Not a single Regieleki went through the tournament without losing. And then we've got 2 right here on Paul's team and Zacian. I'm sure I'm pronouncing his name probably wrong, excuse me. But yeah, only 2 Regielekis. So what does that say? I think that that directly correlates with how successful Groudon and Venusaur did. Regieleki is phenomenal against Charizard, Kyogre, Tornadus, stuff like that. It's great against those Pokemon, but it's obviously not so good against Groudon. It's practically a useless mon. And Venusaur, it hates playing against Venusaur too. The best it can do is Electro Web it and hope that its team can like speed up with it and it just gets free Vine Lash, free Max Quake, stuff like that. So I think that we can even see that the results speak for themselves. Groudon's and Venusaur's succeeded more, which means that Regieleki kind of didn't face as many Kyogres and Torns as it was hoping, and kind of just didn't do as hot as it wanted to do. And I think that that makes sense. These are some good ones, guys. Landorus T. There were 0 Megalol Landorus Ts in top 16. I think that that is insane. I don't think there was a single human being on this planet that would have said there will be 0 Landorus Ts making it into the top 16 through this bracket. And kind of how I like to think of Landorus is that it doesn't do very well against Kyogre. Landorus is not a team comp that you want. Landorus is not a Pokemon you want to bring against Kyogre. And spoiler alert, 2 of the 3 Kyogre teams were these pseudo sun modes. So it's like Landorus wants to come against the Venusaurs and the Torkoals, but he's going to have to deal with Torn Ogre in the process, and that makes Landorus just feel not very good. And then Landorus on paper, I think, looks good against Sun, against Groudon. Intimidate, is immune to ground. Cool. And then Venusaur, well, I hit it super effectively with the max flying. I'm faster than it. You know, I can hold that Lumberry to get rid of the sleep powder option, right? But the big boy, the big lad who is ruining Landorus' life on the Sun teams is Charizard. Charizard, Sun boosted, solar power, G-Max Wildfire, just eviscerates Landorus, just totally bodies him. And then, like, let's say he barely survives, kills the Charizard back. Well, you just got your residual G-Max Wildfire damage, one of the most broken mechanics ever. And you just, that's it. You just won. And especially because you can protect with, like, you can protect Charizard from dying to the Max Rockfall with Incineroar's Intimidate, Porygon 2, like, Trick Room, Ice Beam, this kind of stuff. Screens from Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl's everywhere. So it's just, like, it kind of makes sense that Landorus didn't do amazingly well because the Pokemon that Landorus wants to go against also didn't have that big of a presence. We are really seeing the meta shift a lot. We obviously saw a lot of Zacian, but we saw 0 Lapras. Look at how much the meta's changed, man. Kyogre Timmies didn't really do too hot. And then Lapdog, not a single Lapras, while 5 Zacian made it through. That's because players are getting better and updating their teams to keep up with the meta. And I'm going to be honest, guys, I want to let you guys know why I think Lapras isn't really too phenomenal right now. And I think the answers are this Series 8 meta is practically plagued by the giant G-Max residual damage. Wildfire, Vine Lash, and Volcalith. Now, Lapras gets obliterated by all 3 of those attacks. You're assuming G-Max Wildfire is in the Sun. Lapras gets obliterated. Vine Lash from Venusaur. destroyed. And Volclith from Colossal, totally bodied. So it has to take that one hit, and then what? It's going to clap back and get like its little measly ass max resonance off while it takes 1 billion damage. But here's the thing. You got the resonance up. You've got your screens up. Well, Wildfire doesn't care about screens. Vine Lash doesn't care about screens. It's still doing a 6th, a 6th, a 6th. And then once again, Lapras is one of those Pokemon that isn't very good when it's not Dynamax. So you can kind of just see that like how much this like Wildfire kind of thing did so well in this tournament. Look at this. Let's go down the list. This is crazy. This is the top 16 list. Let's count all the ones that had those big residual Wildfire, Vine Lash, or Volclith. Okay. Audie had both. Jonathan Evans, Vine Lash. Mike, Colossal. Marco, I don't know if this is incorrect, if the Charizard really was not G-Max. I could be wrong about this, or this could be wrong. I'm not completely sure, but not too sure. Let's just skip it just for the integrity of the thing, but it might have been G-Max Charizard. Okay. Colossal, there we go. Wolf with Venusaur, boom. Alec Rubin with Venusaur, boom. Mark, our hero. Thank you, Mark, for not using these degenerate, stupid moves. Just kidding. You guys should use whatever you want to win. I just don't like them because they're OP. Venusaur, boom. Okay, then we've got Zacian and Ethan. Nope. Venusaur, Venusaur, Venusaur. Nope, Venusaur. So only 4 of the top 16 teams did not have the stupid G-Max Wildfire. And so what I'm trying to say is that I think this meta is highly centralized around these attacks. And I think that Lapras does poorly in a meta that revolves around these attacks. They ignore the screens, and Lapras takes a ton of damage from these specific attacks, is what I'm trying to say. So that is my reasoning as to why I think Lapras did pretty poorly. And, well, we still want screens. Screens are awesome, okay? Screens, like, help our Pokemon take damage, take less damage immediately. Well, how about instead of being little slow doo-doo head Lapras, why don't we just use Grimmsnarl, which there were 7 Grimmsnarls used to get priority screens up to defend the team instantly. And even there were a few Dragapults on these Colossal teams. Dragapult here, no Grimmsnarl. These are really, really, really fast Pokemon. And I know Joe had Light Screen, for example, and I'm sure that Mike had Light Screen, Reflect, one or the other, or both on his Dragapult. I'd be willing to bet. So, damage mitigation. Fast damage mitigation is bad for Lapras because its job kind of gets overshadowed. And then the G-Max moves rip Lapras apart too. So I think that it makes sense that Lapras didn't do well here. And it's also a Pokemon that you have to Dynamax, etc., etc. I'm starting to sound like a broken record. We shouldn't completely gloss over the few different legendaries that did make it in. And I think that there's always going to be these trickle in, you know, less popular legendaries, if you will, played by really good players with really well-built teams that made really good meta calls. So we've got Joe with a Veltal. You can kind of see that Joe's team is very, very, very similar to Wolf's Players Cup 2 winning team in terms of the 6 Mons. It is 5 of the same Mons, and then a Veltal replaces Galarian Moltres, another bulky, dark flying type that is an amazing Dynamax when Colossal doesn't seem to be the right option to Dynamax, right? So obviously that makes sense that that is a successful team. We see the Calyrex Ice that I was talking about with the Mimikyu, Sun Mode, and then Incineroar and Indeedee to help get up Trick Room, mitigate damage, etc. And then the other one I believe was, one Calyrex Shadow, which once again, Calyrex Shadow was dominating grassroots tournaments before this tournament. I thought Calyrex Shadow was going to come out guns blazing, but nope, only 1 made it in, so congrats to Zacian. And yeah, the rest are Groudon, Zacian, and Kyogre, which I don't think is surprising, but cool to see some of those other legendaries make it in. So guys, here is one of my little slides that I made for today's stream to talk about why Venusaur is so dumb, okay? And I think it really comes down to this. It's not all about the restricted, okay? I think that a lot of these team matchups and how people build their teams revolve around these specific support Pokemons, and then the restricted Pokemon is kind of just goes into the shell, if you will, right? So as you can see, Venusaur does phenomenally against Regieleki, Kyogre, and Groudon. That's Venusaur, baby. And then the Pokemon that do well against Venusaur, Landorus, if it's Lumberry or AV, Max Airstream. Thundurus is great against Venusaur traditionally. And then the Charizard that we're seeing on those Sun teams is a good call against the other Sun teams is Venusaur. That's what we're kind of seeing is this dichotomy of like the neutral Pokemon are what are really like building these teams. I think we saw Amoonguss and Regieleki fall to the wayside because of how good Venusaur did in this tournament. And I think the stats show it, and I think this picture shows it, okay? And then I have over here the little angels of the format. They do well against most of these Pokemon. They have like weaknesses against most of these Pokemon, but these are like the glue kind of Pokemon that like you don't use these to like counter, like do hard counter like teams, right? But I mean, Dundee is gonna counter Venusaur. Venusaur is gonna counter these, right? So it's kind of like these guys are the little homies of the meta. But yeah, I think we kind of saw that this meta is not fully dictated by the restricteds. It's more dictated by the amazingly good non-restricted Pokemon. But I like this little picture I made. I think it kind of does encapsulate the meta and how it is kind of, you know, going down. I think Venusaur is currently, unfortunately, king of the format. I think it dictates so much of how people have to build their teams, what kind of team comps they go, all that kind of stuff. So that was this little slide. Let's get into my global finals predictions. So this is not what's going to happen next week in the NA, LATAM, EU, and Oceania like final brackets. This is what I think is going to happen in the top 16 bracket of the global finals. So that's the whole world. And first, I want to say that Landorus T is going to be there. Landorus T is going to show up to the party, okay? He was not invited here in NA. We literally saw that there were 0 Landorus used. If you think there will be 0 Landorus on these top 16 teams, I think you are a little cuckoo. I think Landorus is still a great, solid Pokemon. I also think that it's kind of funny, but Colossal is going to be public enemy number 1 going into the top 16 bracket. We've already seen a few Colossals make it in. We've seen them do good, and the whole meme is that we need to stop Colossal from winning this tournament, or you want to be the Colossal user and win the tournament with Colossal, right? It's obviously, if you don't know, Colossal won Players Cup 1 and Players Cup 2. So what I'm getting to is that Landorus is good against Colossal. Colossal, let's say it gets its activation, it Volcalits or Max Flares, doesn't kill Landorus, and then Landorus immediately kills it back with a Max Quake. Which Cole is so broken that like it can just die and then win because of the G-Max Volcalith, just the fact that it gets it up once. That's kind of like how it works. It's stupid. But I think Landorus is a good Pokemon against it. Intimidate is still great. It's good against Sun when you play it right. I think that if you are running Lumberry, you beat the Sleep Powders. But then if players don't opt to bring Sleep Powder, maybe they go AV Venusaur, or they go like Protect 3 attacks, stuff like that. AV Landorus is great against Cole and very good against Sun if they don't have the Sleep Powder. And even then, you could just dodge the Sleep Powder, am I right? So I think Landorus will be there. I think Landorus is still very good against a lot of these meta things. So expect Landorus to show up, especially with how poorly Kyogre did in the NA qualifying bracket, right? And then I think the next thing is that Cole will not be solved yet. And what I mean by that is like, I think Colossal is just so good that there isn't some like super hard answer to Colossal, if that makes sense. Yeah, you can have the Landorus who kills it turn 1. You can have some Max Geysermon that's gonna like KO him back turn 1. But the Volcalith is so broken that one single attack that you get off is all you really need to literally just win the game. So I think that people are not gonna be able to have these like super hard counter things work out against Cole. And I think a big thing about that is because Cole is extremely good in open team sheet best of 3 formats. I think it's kind of I think it's almost like the opposite feeling as a lot of players thought, is that Cole is like this best of one mon. I mean, we've already proven this, but like people still kind of have this feeling that like Cole is like this cheesy best of one mon. You never know if the Dragapult's gonna ally switch, or it's gonna like surf, or it's gonna lead to Aqua Jet, or it's gonna lead this, it's gonna lead that. The thing is that Cole thrives knowing all of your opponents' answers to it because of the open team sheet. You know if the Landorus is AV or not. You know if they've got like Aqua Berry or something to like survive this. All this kind of stuff. Like, Cole is extremely good in open team sheet formats. It's a very flow charty team. You know your lead going into matchups. You know what you're going to do turn one, and like you already pretty much know what your opponent is going to do against it as well. It's very flow charty, which is good. Like, flow charting is good for the player because it takes less of a mental strain, and it's something that you could have prepared for before the tournament a lot easier. So Cole is very good in best of 3. I think it is either going to do extremely well. Maybe it gets like hard countered, but I doubt it. I think Colossal's still going to be brought and do extremely well, unfortunately. But then the last thing that I kind of want to bring up, guys, is that I think Kyogre is not going to like dip even lower. I think the Kyogre teams are going to get better, and we're going to see more Kyogre. So let's say there were 3 Kyogres for top 16 in NA. I safely think there will be more than 3 Kyogres in the finals, the global finals, top 16. I don't think it'll be too many, but I think that people kind of realize that Kyogre's still really good, and you just need to get more creative with the team building. And I think that players have enough time, and I've kind of seen how the meta has unfolded to create these really good Kyogre teams. So that's kind of a read that I'm making, is that more Kyogre and better Kyogre will appear in the global finals. Thank you guys so much for watching this vid. If you're watching from YouTube, make sure to like this video. It helps us out a lot, helps the channel get discovered, and of course subscribe to the channel, baby. We've got the homies here live from Twitch, where I stream 5 days a week. You guys can come hang out with me, come follow the stream, maybe drop a Twitch Prime if you've got one. But guys, I appreciate you very much. I hope that you guys learned a little something about how the Series 8 meta is evolving, and hopefully that'll help you evolve and play better in Series 7, because that meta is going to be around for a long time, and it already happened. So we've got all these tools to get us that head start. So thank you guys for watching. I love and appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys next time. Peace, everybody.